What's up, y'all? We're back for our final kind of research log, check-in kind of thing to do with my research. Throughout the course of, the quarter and the last couple months, I have been diving into research about, my selected primary source, the things you'll see on my digital archive. And just recently, I've finished my first draft, which is exciting. And I'm kind of ready to give you guys that full sort of insight into what my research has been like now that I have completed at least the initial drafting process. So as you guys probably know by now, if you've looked at my archive or seen my research logs before, I am conducting my research on Jordan sneakers. Specifically, the way that Jordan sneakers impact Black communities, urban Black communities, inner city, low-income Black communities. So I've been researching the way that the shoes played, a role in kind of the cultural shaping of the 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s inner city Black culture. I've been looking into some of the reasons for why the shoe has had the extended and extensive impact that it has had. And I have also been looking into kind of some of the ways we can look into the kind of the conglomeration of the two from like an anthropological perspective. And it's been a long process, as you guys can probably see. And if you've ever done a research paper of this magnitude, it is a very long process that starts well before you even get anything on paper or on a Word doc or whatever. So, I started off by first, like I said, deciding what primary source I wanted to do. And then after that, it kind of started with a quick kind of skim of the overall landscape surrounding the source. So I just started typing in keywords into JSTOR, EBSCO, use several of the UCI databases, and just see what the scholarly landscape was like, and if anyone had conducted any sort of similar research before, things that were similar to what I was planning to conduct. And I actually was very pleased by what I found. People have made papers and conducted research on Jordans before because, like I said, they're a huge cultural thing. They're probably the most prominent sneaker that exists in the world even still today. And so it wasn't a shock to me that people had conducted research on the shoes already. However, the research that people were conducting did not line up necessarily with my research. So people were taking research, they were researching the anthropological perspectives of the shoe. They were researching some of the economic kind of strategies by Nike, and analyzing the data of Jordan sales. They were looking at kind of like every little aspect of my research, kind of like the things that I am going to smash together into my thesis, which is great because that means that I could pull a variety of things from a variety of different disciplines in order to create a interdisciplinary thesis, which is always a good thing to have. So you don't stay all narrow-minded, and you can get a nice open-minded analysis of your primary source. Which isn't to say that I didn't run into problems in terms of engaging with the scholarly conversation. As with anything, you're going to run into your problems. And the main problems that I had was finding some of these specific things that I felt like I needed to fill in the gaps of my argument. So things such as, finding specific historical examples of kind of the things that Nike was targeting with their marketing strategy. So the things that tied back to, African dress and things that were like tied into examples of counterculture, and finding these specific instances that could support my thesis instead of just saying, hey, Nike did this, Nike supported that. I did find a couple examples of these things. For example, the Nike Boom Black History Month collection, which I'll also put a picture below so you guys can view it for longer. The Nike Black History Month collection highlighted this sort of mismatched textile use that was very popular in African dress, especially in Nigeria, and also can be seen in African American, historical artifacts relating to black culture and whatnot, such as the quilts of Gee's Bend, as explained from Professor Cooks's lectures earlier in the year. They kind of had this mixed match sort of textile, which has clear tiebacks to Africa and its roots. In terms of exhibiting counterculture, the shoes and Nike as a whole have been kind of tied into the black man and the black athlete as its own identity, kind of breaking away from the system. And they have been known to support athletes that in the past have had controversial things, controversial opinions, ideas. These athletes include like Colin Kaepernick, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James is very politically outspoken. And Nike supports all of this because they want to really strengthen that bond with the black community. And that's kind of the base of my thesis, is that, Jordan as a brand, Nike as a brand, and the shoes as a whole were able to shape this black community because of the way that they targeted the black identity. It relates to themes of, like I said, counterculture. It relates to themes of tying back to your roots. It also just, relates to themes of, they look cool. They look cool, and there was something that could be sort of feel unique to the black community, which is ironic considering that they are the most wide-soled sneaker in the world. But they still felt like there was something that was unique to this black community. And, they had a black spokesperson. The shoes are based on a black athlete. So it really just highlighted and accentuated this pride in the black self and in black identity, which is becoming more common nowadays with movements like, the Black is Beautiful movement, the BLM movement, kind of this second civil rights awakening that we're experiencing. And as well as kind of tying into these black civil rights movements, Nike and Jordan also kind of experienced this heightened sense of black identity by connecting to popular black role models. Obviously, such like Michael Jordan. Also, people such as Spike Lee, who was a major player in kind of the creation of that kind of 80s, 90s kind of hip-hop, kind of basketball kind of culture. Like I said, many black athletes have been sponsored by Nike. Like now, LeBron James, Tiger Woods, the Williams sisters were all sponsored by Nike at some point, because Nike knows that the black community, especially in terms of their sneakers, that's where they got the strongest connection. And so this, over the years, is kind of this beating down on really honing in and strengthening that bond with the black community has left Jordan's and Nike brand as a whole at this point where I genuinely feel like it could really matter less what they do. And they just have this kind of symbiotic relationship, as I would almost describe it, how Nike helps out the black community and the black community is helping out Nike. And that bond really cannot be broken. At least it doesn't appear like it's something that can be broken anytime soon. And that is largely due to the pairing with Michael Jordan and the creation of Jordan sneakers. which is also going to be explored in my paper. And last but not least, let's talk about the most exciting part of the whole paper, the title. I tend to reverse engineer my titles because I believe that if you start off with a title and you try to write your paper based on the title, it's just not going to flow as well versus if you just write down your research and you conduct your research and you put it on the paper and then you find a title that fits the paper. So the title that I've selected, at least tentatively for now, is, drumroll, Like Mike, the impact of Jordans on Black identity. I just feel like it wraps into my thesis pretty well, and it's open enough that it allows, me to talk about this interdisciplinary methodology that I used and kind of just sets the tone for the paper. And I think it also allows me to kind of set myself apart a bit from the rest of the scholarly conversation. Because a lot of the things that have been conducted about Jordans in the past are very non-opinionated, rather. So they're like certain sets of facts or data or, research has been conducted on a very like quantitative scale and not really on a qualitative scale. And so I feel like for me, I really want to make sure that my paper introduces something new, adds to the conversation and fills in these gaps between these disciplines, regarding this topic. Because I feel like there's not enough study being conducted on, in my opinion, on contemporary and modern culture and society as a whole, but especially on minority groups. It ties back to this concept that we're actually talking about in lectures right now, how kind of things get forgotten in history because the only things that really get preserved are the wealthy, really, and like the churches who have the technology and the power to preserve their stories. And in hundreds and hundreds of years, in these impoverished inner city communities, if we don't document and analyze and discover and explore what's going on in these communities, they're going to be forgotten in time. And that's going to be a huge chunk out of the American history that's missing. And seeing how as America as a whole, I feel is a nation that is just really built on being a melting pot of a bunch of different cultures and people, it is absolutely imperative to make sure that no one gets left behind. So I thank you guys for coming on this journey with me. There's still a lot of work to be done. I got a lot of revising. I'm going to try and find some more data, some more sources that I can add to my paper, and just really, iron out these details. But thank you guys for, being here on this journey with me, and enjoy the paper when it comes out.